Hi again then guys, and welcome to the 26th pick in my top 30 selection of dream vehicles, which I'd love to see feature on a GranTurismo game at some point. And to be honest, the majority of these cars are the kind of vehicles which, unless they've already been featured of course, I would love to see feature on pretty much any racing game, not just GranTurismo, but GranTurismo is the kind of game where, like Forza, you could really get the chance to use the car to its best potential, whereas some other games, such as Test Drive Unlimited and Project Gotham, although certainly not bad games, don't really allow you to fully explore the differences between the cars and what they're capable of, whereas Gran Turismo with the tuning, Forza with the tuning and modifications, well, really allow you to develop what the car is good at, improve what it's not so good at, and make it your own machine. And I would personally be very interested to see what this particular car in today's episode could be capable of, because it's a very interesting car, and the designer and builder of the car hasn't even attempted to take this concept as far as it could go. It's actually a quite restrained car considering how crazy it looks and how crazy it could have been. And the car is called the Covini C6W. This is a pretty obscure supercar, and I've been fortunate enough to actually see one myself at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and it really makes an impression. The car has a lot of presence, and although not particularly loud or flashy to look at initially, because usually it has relatively plain paint jobs such as black or silver, when you really look at the car, it holds your attention. For the very obvious reason that, as the name suggests, C6W, it is a six-wheeled car, or Covini six-wheeler. Visually, it's an interesting looking car. From the back end, it's pretty unique. From the front end, it looks a little bit like a mix of a Koenigsegg shape, such as from the CC8S or the CCR, with Ascari KZ1 style headlights. So a very interesting combination. It has gull wing doors, or scissor doors specifically, and six wheels. And the design itself is dictated to by those six wheels. That's what it's all about. Usually with a supercar, it's arguably predominantly about the engine. That's usually the most important thing. That's what people talk about. That's what makes the car what it is. It's the heart of the design. Many vehicles are built around the concept of the engine that it uses. This particular vehicle doesn't do that. This particular vehicle is built around its drivetrain, because there are plenty of other supercars out there already. What Covini wanted to do wasn't just make another supercar for the sake of it. What they wanted to do is try something different that nobody else is doing. A six-wheeled supercar. So, what are the reasons for making a six-wheeled supercar, or indeed any car? Well, one of the advantages is stability. If you have four wheels, as a normal car of course does, and you have a blowout on one of the tyres, you immediately lose control. In a six-wheeled vehicle, you'd have to blow at least 3 tyres before you could actually lose control, unless you blew all of the tyres on one side of the car, of course. The advantage of having those 2 extra wheels gives you such an advantage in safety, and not just safety, but stability around corners, grip in bad weather, and also makes the car less inclined to do typical supercar traits, such as getting its tail out constantly. Having so much more grip, even on non-driven wheels, makes a big difference to the way the car feels, the way it handles, the way it corners, and the way it handles its performance. Now, as I said, it's a relatively restrained car as far as supercars go. It's powered by a 4.2 litre Audi engine, a V8, producing in its updated form 440 horsepower, so nowhere near the kind of power that it could be putting through those 6 wheels. You'd probably expect it, visually, to have at least 600 horsepower, if not more, but it doesn't have anywhere near that. Despite having 6 wheels, though, it's not that heavy. It weighs under 1,300 kilos on the road, and as a result of that, it's pretty good aerodynamics, its stability, and that 440 horsepower. The performance is actually pretty good. The 0 to 60 time is around the 4-second mark, and the top speed is around 187. So it's not phenomenally quick. The performance is similar to, say, a higher-end Corvette or an Audi R8. But the advantage of the six-wheel drive and the overall packaging of a true supercar really set the Covini apart. Now, it's not a very prolific car. They only build around 6 to 8 cars per year, so they're ultra rare. And most of them, from what I've seen, seem to be sold in very similar colours, blacks, silvers, with very few being sold in crazy colours like oranges, yellows, greens, or anything else like that, which is kind of a shame, because I would love to see this car in a different colour for a change, be it red even. But that's another advantage of GranTurismo. We would be able to do that. We could paint it in any of the colours. And I think I'd probably buy a few of these cars and have them in lots of different colours. I'd definitely have to have a purple one, that's for sure, because it's exactly the kind of car that deserves a crazy colour like that. As far as how it would fit into the game, I think it has the potential to be a pretty good little niched vehicle. It's not going to necessarily be a dominant threat to any of the top tier supercars like the Huayras, the Veyrons, the Nismos, but to stuff like the SLR, the Viper, the Corvette, vehicles like that, it could potentially be an interesting foil to those vehicles on certain tracks. Especially circuits which require more control, such as potentially tracks like the Nürburgring or Sierra, where in a fully tuned state a supercar can quite easily clip a curb or catch the grass, and suddenly your whole race can be ruined, especially if you're up against real drivers in public lobbies. If you spin your car out and you're up against heady competition, that's going to really hinder your race. If you've got a vehicle with an extra 2 wheels giving you so much more stability, even though they're not driven wheels, this is a rear-wheel drive car, those 4 extra wheels, or 2 extra wheels even, give you so much more stability and grip that the handling could potentially be fantastic on GranTurismo. You would probably assume that it would make the handling quite heavy, having an extra 2 wheels, and that would depend on where the wheels are placed, whether or not they were driven, and the overall package of the car, really, how much downforce it has, etc. Some vehicles have an extra 2 wheels on the back axle, maybe driven even, so it's all-wheel drive with another 2 wheels at the front for steering. Others are a bit more simple in their approach, such as the Covini, which has the 2 extra wheels on the front, but they're still just for steering, they're not driven. That helps to keep the weight lower than it would be if it was 6-wheel drive, and it means that those front wheels are basically just freewheeling, so they're a lot lighter, they don't have heavy mechanicals associated with them. It keeps the front end relatively light in comparison to how heavy it could be. And in terms of how quick the car could be on the game, with a top speed of around 190 in real life, you can automatically assume it would do over 200 on the game, because that's just how GranTurismo works. Fully tuned, that Audi engine has some pretty good potential. It's a similar spec to the RS4, so we don't have that model RS4 on GranTurismo, but we do have the S4 with the 4.2 litre V8, and you can get that car up to around 700 horsepower. So you could quite easily get the Covini up to 700, if not more. 700 horsepower in a car that already weighs under 1,300 kilos. Give it weight loss, you probably get it down to 1,100, maybe 1,150, if not less. That's a pretty good mix, with the 6 wheels aiding it as well with cornering speeds. But even without the 6 wheels, it's still going to definitely be a fast car. Top speed wise, it's hard to say. It's not really a car which we can compare to much in terms of performance, especially with the 6-wheel layout. It's so unique compared to anything else that's ever been on GranTurismo in that regard. Top speed wise, I would have expected that it would probably do 250 at least, based on how quick, for instance, the Audi RS4 is, despite being nowhere near as aerodynamic as this car, that can do around that kind of speed, around 250. So this car should easily be able to keep up that pace, if not more. And as far as price, I would like to see the Covini cost something like 350 or 400,000 credits. Because although it's certainly an extreme looking car overall, pretty unique visually, it has similar styling to other vehicles as we mentioned, but overall it is a very unique looking car in its overall package. It's not really a top tier supercar, so although it deserves to have a high price, it doesn't deserve to be, say, on the same level as some other extreme supercars such as the Huayras and Veyrons, etc. Overall, of the top 30 list, this is one of those vehicles which is a little bit more niched than some. Some vehicles, the reasons why I want them on the game are fairly obvious, such as the Brabham, the Williams, and the Benetton Formula 1 cars. Obviously, they're purely for how good they would be around the track. Other vehicles are for nostalgic reasons, such as the Espace F1, but some vehicles are just for the fun of it, to be honest, and this is one of those vehicles. I don't particularly want it on the game because I think it would be the best in any particular way. I just think it would be awesome to have GranTurismo's first six-wheeled car, and it would be very, very interesting to find out how the Covini would handle on the game, and it would certainly look amazing to have a six-wheel car in replays. The chances of it actually getting into the game, well, I'd say they're relatively slim, to be realistic. It's an ultra-obscure car. Despite the fact that they do sell a few of them, you'd never see them in photo shoots or videos. It's ultra-rare, a very, very niched vehicle indeed. So whether or not it would actually get into any game, let alone Gran Turismo, seems unlikely so far. As far as I'm aware, it's not featured on any game. But come on, Polyphony, let's break the mold. Get your first six-wheeled car on Gran Turismo. I personally think that would be pretty awesome. And it's not the only good six-wheeled car. There have been six-wheeled Formula 1 cars as well, which are also awesome. But just for me personally, I would love to see the Covini C6W feature on Gran Turismo. But that's it overall for this particular pick. If you are new to the series, feel free to slap down below what cars or maybe just types of vehicles in general that you'd like to see, maybe alternative technologies such as having six wheels that you'd like to see featured in a future Gran Turismo title. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.